thank you for meeting with us today, Vesna.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, UTEC.
Alright, so whenever you're ready, we can start these questions.
Sure.
Alright, we'll start with number one. Number one is, would you support rehabbing, expanding, or better utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
It's important to have a wraparound services, storefront and rehab, and those is important. I mean, UTEC, you talk about UTEC have done a lot for the city. I start with the board members of UTEC back when UTEC was in the church there, down the street on Merrimack Street. And we're part of hiring your director now, which is UTEC came a long way, have done a lot for the community, particularly young people, show them direction, show them that they can do better than where they come from.
Awesome, thank you. Number two, is our main street downtown healthy and successful? Yes or no? If not, what would you do to change that?
The Main Street downtown, it's not just downtown. You can't just focus on downtown alone. You have to also look at other gateway neighborhood, like say Bridge Street, Lemon Road, the Highland. Those is the area you also have to focus on downtown development or economic development. You have to also think about the upstairs, not just the storefront. The upstairs is where they create foot traffic. So what you have to do, you get the owner to have incentive to fix up the upstairs so that you have people either live up there or have office there. They are the foot traffic that helps supporting the business in downtown. That's the only way they're going to sustain. But it take partnership with the owner of the building, the owner of the property, and the city to work to making sure that the upstairs renovated to create office spaces or residential unit, so that the foot traffic is helping the business in downtown. At the same time, also to the neighborhood group, the neighborhood in downtown, in the neighborhood, let's say Bridge Street Bridge. Those corridors, we have to help the small businesses sustain and if not expand in those areas, as well as the Couple Square area, the Highland, and the Pawtuckaville area. So all in all, and the city have done a lot over the years, especially during the pandemic, to help downtown businesses. But no more need to be done to help sustain that downtown development.
Awesome. Thank you again. Let's see. Number three, would you vote in support of a motion allocating from the city budget for incarcerated people who are being released back into society?
You know what? We have this money, the ARPA money, $76 million money, one time from the federal government to use to address the issues of the impact that the pandemic has had on city and town, not just in Lowell, but in other states in the whole country, actually. But we, Lowell, got $76 million. Some of those money is going to be used to do the infrastructures, the sewage, overflow, help the lost revenues that the city due to pandemic, as well as use some of those money to help in program disparity, because COVID also not only impact the life of the people, killing families, but also highlight the disparity, the inequity that we face as a city in education, in housings, and so on. So the service with regard to the re-entry, from incarceration, we have to work closely with the sheriff office and with the state DOC Department of Correction to help to see what we can do to help those young people that as they come back to the community, they have place to stay and they have job lined up so that they won't recommit the crime that they did, that they went there in the first place.
Awesome. Number four, as UTEC, we value equality. We as organizers try to decrease racism and violence in the streets. How would you vote on a motion that says racism is a public health issue?
I support the motion that racism is a public health crisis. The discrimination part of it is that I was in the receiving end of it. Okay, years ago, if you go look back 2019, I had an incident with one of our officers in the city, and look, I've been in public safety for 31 years. Started in 1990, I worked at the district attorney office. I worked at the DA office. At the time, there's no Asian police officers. We worked to get grant, work with the local police and the district attorney office to have the federal grant for 3 years to hire 2 Cambodian officers. After the 3 years federal funding, then the city will pick up to pay those 2 guys. And those 2 guys now out of the force. But since then, we have other Cambodian officers coming on board. It's important to have that. It's important to have a diverse workforce in the city. As far as raising public health crisis too, is that, you know, the issue is difficult. It's difficult and comfortable for some. And it costs money to address these issues of systematic racism, right? The disparity you see, as talked about earlier, about education, you know, and housing, healthcare, and employment. So it is an uncomfortable and difficult issue, but it's important that we deal with it because it makes us stronger and healthier as a city.
Thank you. This is going to be our last question right here. Do you support having our own version of the Carriel's Law? If you don't know what the Carriel's Law, I can explain
don't.
it.
What's Carrie Law?
Carriel's Law, Buffalo Police Officer Carriel Horn, a series of laws that make it a crime for a law enforcement officer to fail to intervene when another officer is using excessive force, and also protects whistleblowers. Included in Carriel's Law was a provision, retroactive protection for officers, which allows an officer found to have been terminated for reporting the objectively unreasonable use of force against a civilian or intervening to stop the use of objectively unreasonable force by a fellow officer within the 20-year period preceding the adoption of the law, to have that finding reviewed by a court.
I don't know much about the law. I'll be more than happy to study more about the law. But what I'm happy now is that I've been advocating for, and I know that it's difficult for the union. Recently, the police union, they did a negotiation of their contract. Part of the negotiation, part of the agreement is that the police, a local police department now agree to have body camera as a pilot project. Okay, the body camera can do 2 things. One, it builds trust with community, right? It builds trust between the community and the law enforcement. Second, because if you don't have the body cameras, you know, citizens and just about every citizen have the, you know, camera, right? iPhone, and they can take it whenever they wanted to take it. So it's good to have it to build trust between the community and the police officers or the police department. But more important than that is the validating what the police say, right? If they stop someone at a traffic stop, they go on to stop a traffic stop, before they get out, turn on the cameras, right? You go in there, you speak to the individual, you know, as you do, asking for license, registration, and whatnot. Whatever you said there, it's there on the camera. And validating, when you put in a report, and validating the report that you put in there, right? What you say in the report. So it's a good thing to do. And as far as the law that you mentioned, I'd be more than happy to look into it and see where we at and how can we do to support it.
Awesome, thank you. That was all of our questions.
Thank you.
We did awesome.
Awesome, thank you.